Robbery. That's the nothing personal word of the day. It is Tuesday, July 15th, 2025. And I'm not talking larceny. I'm not talking penal code. I'm talking good old-fashioned bandana over the face robbery at last night's home run derby. We have a word of the day every day on Nothing Personal. And if you are in the chat and you're live with us on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, 7 a.m. Eastern, and you can predict what my word of the day will be, you will win some free merch at davidsamsonpodcast.com. I would assume, Coca, someone out there is going to win today because you cannot have watched the home run derby and not woken up this morning thinking about the robbery of Junior Caminero's home run. Think about the robbery that Brent Rooker suffered. I want to go one at a time, and I'm going to be organized with my thoughts because I've had hours to go through what I thought of my 3 hours from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern last night watching the home run derby. You have to know that my background in derbies is in 2016 being in San Diego with Giancarlo Stanton as he won the home run derby, and then hosting the home run derby in 2017 when Aaron Judge won the home run derby. I spend a lot of time thinking about this contest because fans love it. I always viewed it as our version of the slam dunk contest when we had heard of the players in the slam dunk contest. I always viewed it as something that creates more memories than even the All-Star game, to wit. People remember Aaron Judge winning the home run derby in 2017. Do you remember what happened in the All-Star game the next day? I was the president of the hosting team, and I have a hard time remembering the extra inning game that happened the following day. When the field was announced, we went over the field yesterday. We had some picks. We thought Wood would do it, maybe Buxton. We were talking about the excitement of Jazz saying yes. Little did we know, having Cal Raleigh, who is leading the league in home runs, all of the players who are there, and it looks like a cool place to be. You're watching the broadcast thinking, oh, being on the field, that would be cool. All of the players, except it was hard to tell what was what and who was who with people wearing the jerseys this year that had AL and script and NL and script or block letters, but sort of the cool factor. I hesitated all night because I get that I'm not the demographic that they're going for at Major League Baseball. They're not marketing to me. They're marketing to about 62% of you. The other 38% of us, we're just there to watch. I guess there's a reason that ESPN set up on the field with Cal Raleigh and Eduardo Perez to the point where they couldn't see when O'Neal Cruz was launching bombs because there were players standing right in front of them, which gets in the way of the broadcast, and there's way more people watching the broadcast than who are there in person. Therefore, you'd like to think that you wouldn't allow that. Far more empty seats than I would have expected, but of course, you can't judge a sellout by the number of empty seats in the stands because in a home run derby, more and more people are going to sneak out to where home runs are trying to get a ball. What is the use of sitting behind the third base line in a home run derby? I guess it's, good seats, but you want to be in the outfield. So don't judge based on the rows and rows of empty green seats. That's fine. The rules of 3 minutes. You got 3 minutes, 40 pitches. That seemed fine to me, except I was trying to figure out how everyone keeps count. And then Rooker comes out and says, hey, man, I only had 38 balls in my rack. Well, that can't be. Every rack has 40 balls. Oh, but I used the first 2 before we started. And no one was paying attention? It can't be. As Cal Raleigh is talking to you about what the odds are as we talk to you about the latest DraftKings odds and who our picks were, we got to make sure we get the rules. We got to make sure that everyone is coming from the same rack of balls. You get 40 pitches in the first round if you can get them done within 3 minutes. Has to be a level playing field, or else no one's going to bet on it. Had no idea that the tiebreaker in the first round would ever be by how far your longest home run was hit. And Cal Raleigh and Brent Rooker were tied. And the crawl underneath had Rooker in fourth and Raleigh in fifth. And we kept hearing, wait, Raleigh has the longer home run by an inch. Therefore, Raleigh's in fourth and Rooker's in fifth. They never changed the crawl. Like no one noticed that. I couldn't stop looking at it. And I'd like to explain to you how clear baseball would be that the ball went an inch longer. This is where I seem old and angry. The system we had in 2017, love it. Are you ready? Now, don't get angry. Please. I'm just begging you to enjoy this bit of truth. We had the architects of the building, Earl Santee and Populous. Shout out to Earl Santee and Populous. Earl Santee, the greatest ballpark architect in your lifetime, in anybody's lifetime. Used to be of HOK and then Populous. We had a chart that was approved by baseball and the union. And the chart gave home run distances. So if you hit it to the outfield, section 3, and it went 4 to 8 rows above the deck of section 3, that was 442 feet. If it went to row 8 to 10, that's 452. Row 12 to 16 in the upper deck, that's 492. If it's hit down the line, we had every part of the fair territory where home runs can be hit. It was on a chart. So what do you do when a home run's hit? During the regular season, you got a guy in the press box who works for the team. He looks at the chart. He then announces to the media, home run by number 27, Giancarlo Stanton, his 19th home run of the season, 444 feet. And then people write it down. Hey, that was 444 feet. The science was by chart, manual. This is where the question comes. You know, I've been out of the game since 2017. Is it possible that they have now, with StatCast and Exit Velo and all of the analytics they have, they can get it down to the inch? Way to go. That is impressive. Unlikely, but impressive. And if that's the case, then just tell us. Because what worse look is it for baseball than Rooker missing the semifinals by an inch and then saying publicly, you know, maybe if they have to, excuse me. Hi, my name is David Samson. It's a Tuesday. Okay, I'm fine. Thank you. Rooker said in an interview right after he got eliminated, you know, maybe if they have it to the decimal point, they should display that during the Derby, not wait till everybody's done to bring out that information. That might be helpful. I think he said that to Susan Slusser after the Derby, after he'd been eliminated. It really makes no sense not to give everyone the exact rules. So we're watching the excitement of O'Neal Cruz. We're watching the excitement of Junior Caminero. We're watching the major home run hitter, Cal Raleigh. We already forgot about the fact that Jazz Chisholm was a sham of a home run derby participant and actually interviewed after acknowledged such. I get why baseball put him in there. I get why they asked him to do it. I get why they named him an all-star. I told you those two concepts were combined. You can be an all-star, you better do the derby. You're going to bring flair. You're going to bring excitement. You're going to bring international star. You're a guy. He didn't quite take it seriously. He said afterwards, I didn't want to do anything to my swing. I wasn't swinging for home runs. Maybe next time I'll swing for home runs, but this time I just wanted to keep my swing, wanted to keep ready for the second half. Bunch of horse hockey. I don't want to watch a guy go out there and hit 3 home runs, foul balls off, hit some line drives. We're there for the dingers. But that's okay. Someone's got to lose. When you're watching the home run derby and you're thinking to yourself, you can't be the only one. These kids on the field are going to get killed. The way you decide who gets to be on the field shagging is based on sponsors and it's based on connections. You submit the name of kids that you want to be on the field. It can be a local team. It can be a local charity. It can be underprivileged kids. It can be overprivileged kids. Baseball sets a number of people on the field during a round, and then they switch out. So they're back, they're forth, they're in, they're out. Let's say there's 100 kids. It is a very sought-after position. It was my least favorite part of hosting the Derby because my view was that these kids don't realize how hard it is to catch a fly ball, and they're going to get doinked. There used to be, over the course of years, if you go back and look, there were little kids out there in the outfield, and I wanted to put an end to that. I felt there should be a minimum age. It never once occurred to me, however, that there would be an opportunity for one of the people shagging home run balls that aren't home runs during the Derby could actually climb the wall and make a catch, robbing a home run from one of the Derby participants. When I watched Junior Caminero hit a ball that looked like it was going out, though I'll tell you, I couldn't tell what was going out and what wasn't. I certainly couldn't judge it by listening to the commentators who said, whoa, there's the longest shot of the day. Wait a minute, that was 498, not 513. There's a and then you see it drop in the outfield. There was no way for me to tell, other than maybe I'm the only one, other than I had to look at the counter on the graphic and say, oh, there's another home run. There's another home run. So a ball is shot out into left field, left center, and here comes a kid, although when I looked at him closely, he could be 18. Goes over the wall and catches a Caminero home run. And everybody is outraged. People are tweeting, oh my God, it's Jeffrey Mayer. No, it's not. This is not a regular season game where someone's out of play and interfering with a ball in play. There was no interference here. If you tell the kids that you're shagging balls, but don't try to catch home runs, what are we doing? I want it to be the opposite. I want to put kids on the field and say, hey, you catch everything you can. Climb that wall. Do whatever you have to do. You already signed the liability waiver. If you sprain an ankle or die, either way, you don't get a penny. You can't sue anyone. These documents that you, your parents, that everybody signs, they are locked. The outrage that people felt, I felt the other way. How is it possible that Junior Caminero got counted as hitting a home run when it wasn't a home run? And the umpires out there saying, oh yeah, home run. If we're going to do a home run derby and we're going to have people shagging as opposed to just sitting in bleachers in the outfield or on the infield, you could do that. Just have kids sitting on the field ducking lasers as they come, or giving the big Geico blue gloves to protect themselves, or an umbrella like Wile E. Coyote on my right leg, whatever. But if you have them out there actually trying to catch balls and they catch a ball, why are we critical of that? Why do we count that as a home run? Let's embrace it. That was a robbery. That was a robbery of the kid getting the credit. So Cal Raleigh ends up winning the home run derby. Really cool. He's in the middle of a 6-year, $105 million contract. I was rooting for Caminero at that point, and you could tell that Caminero wanted it when he was in the finals. He's a third baseman for the Rays. And before everyone tells you that, oh my God, Samson's the only one who ever got rid of players that were bad and then ended up being good, every team, I know you heard what I heard about the Guardians, but I'm not down on the Guardians. They're an unbelievable front office. We all miss on players. We all miss on trades. All of us. Guaranteed. So Junior Caminero wanted to win this, not because of for his country, the Dominican Republic, and all the Dominican players who were out there helping him, which was so cool to see. He wanted to win it because it's no joke. He would have won $1 million in salary. That's more money than he makes. He's a minimum player right now for the Rays. Imagine doing something that enables you to double your pay. It's a serious thing. And when Raleigh went first and got 18 in the final round, Junior knew what he had to do, and he could not get past 15. Rightfully despondent. Not saying that Raleigh's not happy or a good winner or that he didn't want the million or use the million. I wonder how much of that million he will give. When you do the Derby, you pay out your pitching coach with any winnings, the guy who your batting practice pitcher. I would think that Raleigh would give money to his dad and to his brother. It was a pretty cool family affair. His brother was catching, Cal was hitting, and his father was his BP pitcher, was his home run derby BP pitcher. And boy, did he lay him in. And it's not easy. If you ask Jeff Conine, whose son is a major leaguer, Griffin Conine, there was a home run derby, I believe, when Conine was in college. And Conine, the father, Mr. Marlin, Jeff Conine, was throwing to his son. And he had thrown to his son 1 billion times over the course of the son's childhood and career. And that day, Jeff Conine just couldn't get the ball over the plate and was a terrible home run derby pitcher. And so the pressure on a dad, it's significant. And what Tony Raleigh did round after round, laying it in exactly perfectly. Just think about the guy who was throwing to Coco. Who did Watkins throw to? Because they ran out of time several times. They left balls in the rack several times. He missed several times. Who did he throw to? Buxton, my guy. We picked Buxton. It didn't work out well. I'm not going to blame the BP pitcher, but I could. So overall, I would give the home run derby a solid 6.2 out of 10 because I love home run derbies. We saw some unbelievable home runs by some unbelievable hitters. I thought the camera angles could have been better. I thought the broadcast could have been better. I thought the rules could have been clearer. But congratulations, Cal Raleigh. Now it's time for the main event, which I think was last night. But tonight is pretty cool. When you look at the lineups for the All-Star game and you look at the fact that Skubal is pitching against Skenes and that normal people who don't watch Pittsburgh or Detroit, which is a lot of you, you're going to see two really, really good pitchers get out there and pitch the first inning. They went through and gave us the lineups yesterday, and I wanted to just mention a few things about the lineups. Before we get to that, a couple notes for your day as you're talking about the All-Star game, just so you have them. Paul Skenes is starting for the second year in a row, and that's the only number of years he's been in the game, 2, which means that he's been an all-star starter his first 2 seasons. Not a lot of people do that. Like Ichiro did it, Joe DiMaggio, Frank Robinson, Rod Carew. That's it. Think about that. DiMaggio, Robinson, Carew, and Ichiro. That's it. That's pretty cool. With all the great matchups we've seen, and man, go back to Randy Johnson and Pedro, and we just heard the Bobby Valentine story of who's starting, just the great pitching that existed over the years. Paul Skenes and Tarik Skubal are the first pair of starters to each have 130 plus strikeouts and a sub 2.25 ERA with below a 1 whip. No pair of starters have ever had those stats. Now, are we a victim of trying to find something? Maybe. Are we out there saying, how can we differentiate these players to give you an idea of how rare this is? Maybe. Can we manufacture and pick three stats that these two are unique in and just present it as, oh, this is historic? Maybe. But if you're looking at stats, strikeouts, ERA, and whip, that seems like a good one. Good combo. So the starting lineups were announced. The batting order was announced. I don't know whether you're excited to watch Gleyber Torres lead off for the American League. Maybe you're excited that Riley Green is hitting second. Then you get into the murderer's row of Judge, Raleigh, and Guerrero. That's pretty good. I don't know. You look at the National League, you get Ohtani to lead off. And followed by Acuna and Marte. If you haven't watched Marte, you're missing a stud. And then the middle of the lineup with Freeman, Machado, and Will Smith. And we haven't even gotten to Kyle Tucker, Francisco Lindor, or Pete Crow Armstrong. The National League lineup is stacked. The bottom of the lineup in the American League, Ryan O'Hearn, Caminero, Baez, and Wilson. Now, those are good players. The fans voted in those players. Jacob Wilson is having a rookie season to die for the Sacramento Vegasans. Really quite something. The fact that Javier Baez and Gleyber Torres and Riley Green are all-stars voted in, cool. Really cool. They're having a great year. But it's hard not to give an advantage to that National League lineup, isn't it? But Skubal going at Ohtani, Acuna, and Marte in the first inning, that excites me more than Skenes going against Torres and Green until Aaron Judge comes up in the first inning. Skenes against Judge. Who's ready? You think Skenes and Skubal will reach over 100? Book it. They will each throw over 100 in that first inning. There's something that should be noted, though, about this All-Star game. And Coca is upset with me. Every story thinks you're always so anti-player. I'm not really that. I know you think I am, Matt. I really do, and I respect you. You know I do. After whatever number we're at, 1,314 episodes. But listen, how can there be 80 All-Stars? Let's just make you are an All-Star. We did it to ourselves when we started naming All-Stars and then replacing them. 80 All-Stars are not named the day the rosters are announced. Now, if you pitch on a Sunday, or if you don't want to pitch at all, or if you have a little tweak or a little something, you still are an All-Star, but you get replaced on the roster. All because players don't want to play a full game. They want to play early and then leave, get on their planes, and get out of there as quickly as possible. The managers of the All-Star game have to let the players know who are the ones who are going to finish it up because they're always the junior ones. The senior guys want to get out of town. As much as they look excited to be there, they want to be back with their families. They want to get all day, Wednesday and Thursday off. 80 All-Stars, it used to mean something. Do the math. There's 30 teams, 25 players per team. That's what it used to be. Now it's 26. Can you do 30 times 20 in your head? Can you come up with 600? Then can you do 30 times 5 and come up with 150? So 750, then an extra 26. Are we correct that it's 776? All right, Coca, fine, we're live. I'll check it because my brain may not be working. 30 teams times 26, 780. What did I come up with? 750. Oh, plus an extra 30 players, obviously. Not 26. The 26th player at 30 teams. 780 players in Major League Baseball, 80 of whom are All-Stars. 80 of whom are benefiting from provisions in their contract. Do you think that it makes sense to you that over 10% of players should be the best? In what world is top 10% that? Not my world. I got a suggestion. I'm going to talk to baseball about this. Instead of these provisions for all-star bonuses that are just all-star starters, all-star selections, let's get a third category, all-star replacements. And let's say that what's important to us is the fan vote. We want you to be popular. We want you to be the face of the game. We want you to be out there on your social media channels trying to win the vote. You win the vote, this is your bonus. If you're selected by players, this is your bonus. If you're selected by managers, that's your bonus. The commissioner's office, that's your bonus. It's going to be the smallest because commissioners are doing it for ulterior motives in order to get one player per team and to figure out home run derby. But you'd have a bonus for that. Then the last category is the replacement category. If you are a replacement all-star, your bonus is the smallest. What's the difference? We negotiate contracts with players every year. We negotiate contracts for 0 to 3 players, the young guys, for the ARB-eligible guys who have been in the league for 4 to 6 years. Free agent deals have all-star clauses in them. When I sat down with Joel Wolfe to do Giancarlo Stanton's deal, I will never forget when I said to him, I don't want to do an all-star clause. And he said, you have to include an all-star clause. And I said, why? He's getting $325 million. Why? We went back and forth, and this did not take 0 minutes. I wasn't going to let the deal go because of it, and Joel Wolfe knew that, which is why he had the leverage and I didn't. But I hung in there for like an hour of back and forth of what is it as an employer that I should expect when we are making a $325 million guaranteed offer to a player who just got hit in the face and hasn't had an at-bat since that unfortunate moment. Why can't you deliver to me an all-star performance every year as part of the contract? And the answer was, what you're getting for $325 is the $162. You're not getting the Midsummer Classic. If he's a Midsummer Classic, that's an extra game, and we want to get paid for it. I get it. I gave in. What a wimp I was. Let's do the review, Coca, please. I watch a movie every day or a TV show. Get to me at davidsamsonpodcast.com or in my Twitter at David P. Samson. And please give me movies to watch. Coca gave me one to watch that I'll watch today. And I forgot what it's called. It's something like K-pop Demon Slayer. I have it written down on my list. Was I close, Coca? Not really. Are you there? Hello. I watched Friendship the other day because one of you suggested it. I wouldn't have watched it, though I love Paul Rudd. I love Tim Robinson. Kate Mara, yes. This is a movie about neighbors, but it's not like the Seth Rogen Neighbors and the name of the guy who did his face. He was in the wrestling movie. Oh, my God, Zac Efron. It's not that type of movie. This is a movie about someone who's so on the outside, such a loser, such a wrong side of the tracks guy, trying to just figure out, how can I be popular? How can I make friends? Wait a minute, the cool guy wants to talk to me? Well, I'm sort of having a Walter Mitty moment. I don't know if this is real, not real, but there seems to be some sort of situation where I'm getting attention from the popular group, even though I'm awkward. I don't even know what to say to these people, but all I want to do is be in a room. Wait, is that my friend? It's my enemy. Or is it my friend? Have you ever been in a situation where you wanted to be part of something that you just weren't a part of for whatever reason? You're too short, you're too fat, you're too old, you're too young, you're too thin, the wrong color, whatever the case may be. You wanted to be a part of something. You wanted to be in the room where it happened. And the question is, what would you do? This is not a violent movie. This is a comedy, but it's a biting comedy. The reason I found it interesting is I found it super relatable. Go check out Friendship. Tim Robinson has a great performance. He is so talented, and Paul Rudd doesn't make a bad movie. I got a busy day today. It's the All-Star game. Got a bunch of shows, bunch of things we're doing, but I will have time because I got 22 hours in a day. Thunderbolts. I'm going to watch it. It's available for streaming. Now, I don't know if it's called Thunderbolts Asterisk. It may be. But I'm going to watch Thunderbolts and then review it tomorrow. The new Marvel movie with Florence Pugh, etc. and that guy the president from Independence Day's son, Louis Pullman. What's the date today, Coco? Checking. 15th. Today is July 15th. We only have 2 days left. Put that thing on the screen. The Bridgehampton Child Center and Recreation Center. There it is. You can win a lunch with me. I'm David Samson. I'll buy you lunch. We can do it in the city. We can do it in the Hamptons. All you have to do is donate on Charity Buzz. The bidding ends on July 17th. Hit that QR code if you're watching this on YouTube or the DraftKings Network. I think you can hit the QR code. Take a picture of the QR code, and you'll get right to Charity Buzz. It's the Bridgehampton Child Care and Recreational Center. They do a lot of things for underprivileged kids out here and adults. And it is money well raised, well spent, and we'll get lunch together. How much fun would that be? One-on-one. Or you could bring a friend. So I'm willing to have lunch with like up to 2 people. But that's it, because you get drinks, you get food, and it's a nice restaurant I'll take you to. You got till July 17th. Let's start bidding. The commissioner spends time with his PR people several times a year. It's much more intimate. The PR guy and the commissioner are joined at the hip during the course of a regular day in the office at Major League Baseball, when they're going to do an appearance. But when it is spring training, All-Star Game, and World Series, that is go time for the commissioner of baseball. You are doing a bunch of media tours, a bunch of appearances, and we got to lock it up. We got to get our messages straight. There is rehearsing. Rob Manfred's out there meeting the media. He had to go on Pat McAfee's show. I'm only laughing because I assume he likes going on McAfee as much as he liked going on Lebitard's show. I assume it's the bane of his existence to have to go on McAfee, because McAfee is not a serious person when it comes to this. He is a character, a successful character, but you have to try to stay on message when McAfee is going to try to get you off message, because ESPN is not your friend. Pat McAfee is not your friend. He's not your partner. ESPN and MLB, negotiating or not, they are 2 entities who are at loggerheads in myriad ways. Heck, all you had to do is watch Get Up or First Take yesterday, and you'd know immediately, wow, they do not like baseball. Not one mention of the Home Run Derby on either of those 2 shows. Not a mention. Oh, yeah, it's tonight at 8. We'll see it. Not a segment, not an explanation, nothing. Hey, is LeBron better than Jordan? McAfee did his show from Atlanta. He is now the person ESPN uses, and he works his tuchus off. Don't get me wrong. He's everywhere. But he's the shiny toy that ESPN brings out, the wrestling character. Get young people interested. You're not going to have, the old guys, the old Hall of Famers doing introductions. You want excitement. So Pat brings his show, and they're doing it, and Rob Manfred gets on it, and Rob was going through his messages of, yeah, we want more national games than regional games. Well, yes, that's true. We want to make sure that we're not in the blackout business. That's important to say, because fans around the demographics are saying, we don't like the fact that we can't watch a game when we want to watch a game. What's with these blackouts? I've explained it 1,000 times if I've explained it once. The blackouts were part of something called home territories. You owned your home territory. You bought your home territory when you bought your team, and then you sold the rights to games in your home territory exclusively to your regional network, and you were not allowed to encroach on anybody else's home territory. That's what blackouts are. But no. The better plan is, let's make sure that everyone can watch whatever they want, wherever they are, however they want to watch it. Amen. I'm in. Problem. It's causing a decrease in the value of the regional games. So you say, let's do more national games. All right. Any follow-up from Pat on that? commenting about the Pirates. Have you ever seen more people pile on the Pirates than what people do? I just don't get it. Are they the example you want to use? Do you want to go over the last 50 years? Are you sure that they're the team? Are you sure that every sport doesn't have, by definition, teams at the bottom and teams at the top? I'm not going to defend Bill Nutting again because I've done it to you, but is that really necessary? Was it necessary for McAfee to introduce Rooker as a player in a minor league baseball park? You think MLB was happy with that intro? You think they got approval over the script? I don't. They would have wanted it, though. The purpose of Rob meeting the media was to make sure that he got some messages across. The big one is that he had been out front telling you that he was going to announce a new, smaller package. Remember the ESPN $550 million package that disappeared? That he was going to announce a new package by the All-Star game. I've always encouraged owners and commissioners to be super careful with self-imposed deadlines. I'm a big fan of talking about the deadlines you cannot control. Free agency, the first day of the World Series, opening day, the trade deadline. Those are all deadlines and days that are given to you that there's not one thing you can do about. But I don't really like saying, I will have a naming rights deal done by July 10th, 2011. Why? What would be the purpose of saying that? We will have a TV deal done by the All-Star game. What's the upside of that deadline? It's only downside when you don't miss it, and then people are saying, whoa, you don't have a deal because you don't have the right deal because you're not being offered as much money as you gave up when you opted out of the ESPN deal and when they ran away from you. But if you don't give a deadline, then you get to give an update. When you give a deadline and you don't hit it, you can't even give an update. You have to give an excuse. My view is I want to give the update, not the excuse. And the update I would have given during the media availability, during the All-Star game that's on ESPN would have been the following. We've got so many people interested in this package that we really can't quite narrow it down because obviously we're trying to get the most money possible. And it's amazing to us that ESPN is back trying to get what they lost. So we are going to take our time and we will let you know when we've made a decision. Then you're coming from this area of strength. You're coming from, my God, there's so many bidders. The price is going to go up, 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 and ESPN is going to be despondent beyond repair. But instead, you had to spend the time saying, oh, we're close. I've been busy out there. I was hoping we could get it done by now, but it will be shortly. We've made real progress. That's a terrible quote from the commissioner. I want him to stand up there, whether it's talking to Sports Business Journal or doing McAfee, whatever media he's doing, and I want him to be the leader. I want him to be the dictator. I want him to have everyone at the union, every broadcaster, every player, every fan, every sponsor looking at him and saying, that's the man in charge. Hard stop. There's going to be new people in charge in Tampa. All right, I want to give people a chance here, Coco. Take a breath. If you are a fan of the Tampa Bay Rays or of trying to get an expansion team somewhere and you've been very interested in the plight of the Tampa Bay Rays, this segment's for you. And we'll do it now. 4869. The sale of the Tampa Bay Rays from Stu Sternberg to a Jacksonville developer whose name is Patrick Zalupski. It's happening. It got leaked to The Athletic. Now, we had read that there's a $1.7 billion letter of intent. There's an exclusive negotiating window happening. We read that. But what we found out yesterday is the deal is done. Now, a deal's never done until an owner gets approved by the other owners. A deal's not done until there's signatures. But this is about as close to done. It's basically finished. What do you think about that, Montreal? It's basically finished. And what it means is that Tampa's not going anywhere. Just like Rob Manfred promised Ron DeSantis, just like Ron DeSantis promised you, just like Stu Sternberg never wanted to have happen, Tampa is staying in Tampa. I think we all saw this coming. The hurricane was a blessing in disguise for Sternberg, able to get out of the deal to build a stadium in St. Petersburg, which no one wanted, able to find a buyer at a price that is to die for if you are an owner of the Tampa Bay Rays. 1.7 billion enterprise value when the Baltimore frickin' Orioles went for 1.73. Tip of the cap to you, David Rubenstein, for getting that price from the Angelosi. 1.7 is a very healthy price for the Tampa Bay Rays. But the reason why he's getting it is because of the excitement, the thought, the dream. Oh my God, there's a new stadium. That new stadium could be filled. It's going to be in the Tampa area. Ybor? Maybe. Ybor? Maybe. Maybe not. The mayor of Tampa already came out and said, oh, this is good. This feels like it's happening in Tampa. Feels like the team is staying. We have no done deal yet, but it looks good. All of the people who would not help Stu Sternberg are now lining up to help this new owner. Have you ever heard the expression, the devil you know? How do you exactly know whether this guy, Patrick, is going to all of a sudden be Stephen Cohn of Tampa? How do you know what he's willing to contribute in a ballpark and whether he's got the money to actually, with his housing business and with his partners, to put money into a ballpark that's a first-class facility in Tampa? And when exactly is that going to open? Are you telling me that the Tampa Bay Rays in Major League Baseball don't have to grovel back to St. Petersburg and beg them for an extra year at the Trop? How are you going to open a ballpark there? Forget 28. How are you going to open it in 29? Not happening. I don't believe a new ballpark can open in Tampa until 2030. And if that's the case, you're going to be short a year. And believe me, they're not playing in Steinbrenner Field, and they're not playing in Sacramento. Right back at the Trop. That's if the Trop ever gets fixed, which if you're St. Petersburg, I'll violate that lease. Screw it. I'm not going to put the Trop back in plain shape. I want to spend that money on redevelopment. You want to sue me, Major League Baseball? Great. Specific performance? You're not going to get it. I am fascinated by what's going to happen now in Tampa because so many people in that region and around baseball are all saying the same thing. Nailed it. Whew. We're done with that issue. The problem is that we've been done with the Tampa Bay issue 17 times before, and we were never done with it. A change of ownership does not all the time lead to the panacea in the same way that a new stadium doesn't either. It used to be the case. It used to be that when you got a new stadium, you were set to go. You had a ramp of 5 years that if you could win any time within the 5 years, you could just live forever on sellouts, on people coming, the excitement of a new ballpark. Those days are over. And it's not because we built in Little Havana. It's not because any other reason. We're not the cause of it. There are new stadiums everywhere that are simply not selling out. And then new stadiums become older stadiums, and then nobody comes. This is common. We are announcing as an industry, that's $1 Coca. They are announcing as an industry that attendance is great. We're going to be up. We've got records. But as you know from my previous conversations about attendance, that's a whole lot of PR. Do you know that when you offer to buy the Tampa Bay Rays before the commissioner even allows you to go before a vote of the owners, you have to commit that you're keeping the team in Tampa? Do you know that when you're trying to buy a team, you have to submit a financial plan and a pro forma that has to get approved by the commissioner's office and then the executive council? Do you know that when you are a prospective owner of a team, you have to be looked at and your net worth is examined very carefully? And if your net worth is based on there not being a housing crisis going forward, that's taken into consideration. Do you know that before you buy a team that you've got to prove to the commissioner that your plan is not just your plan, but it's baseball's plan, and that it's a plan that can happen? I have a feeling there's going to be a little more to this Rays story, and we're going to learn a little bit more about what plans good old Patrick has for the Tampa Bay Rays, because it's going to include Tampa. Orlando's going to hang out there saying, wait a minute, we still want a team. St. Petersburg is going to say, well, see you later. Why would he have to even treat you nicely? Goodbye. I think there's a little bit left here. Nothing personal pick of the day. I'm annoyed here. Coke and we don't fight, actually. We can get annoyed with each other, as people do who work together every day for years and years and years, doing a live show where there's tension anyway, where there's sweat bubbling underneath your thighs as you're sticking to your glove chair. I don't understand when I said put half a unit on Wood for the home run derby and half a unit on Buxton for the home run derby, and neither of them hit because Wood didn't win, didn't make the semifinals. Buxton did make the semifinals and then lost. We lost both. I understand we lost a unit, but I have to count those as two losses to my count? I was 94 and 88. I was rolling. Now, all of a sudden, I'm game 7 of Knicks Rockets. I don't understand 1994. I don't understand 94-90. I don't understand. Strike that. That would have been so smart if I'd done it right, Coca. This is live. 94-90 was game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals of 1994, not the NBA Finals. And when I see, whatever. No one cares. All I know is I'm 94 and 90 and I'm annoyed. Well, I got a pick for tonight. How do you pick an all-star game? Do you pick it according to the starting lineup? Do you pick it according to the starting pitcher? You can't, because there's only one thing I can guarantee. Skubal and Skenes will not be the pitcher of record in tonight's all-star game. No chance, toilet pants. They're going an inning. I don't know the rotation of pitchers because they didn't announce it yet, even though it's done and the manager has it. I don't know how many at-bats they're going to give Shohei Ohtani, but I would imagine 2, maybe 3. I look at Aaron Judge. If I'm the Yankees, 1, maybe 2, 2, maybe 3, not more. It's the reserves who are going to make the difference. The replacements are going to make the difference. The people not voted for who are going to make the difference. And the line right now on DraftKings, subject to change, obviously, as they all are, is minus 112 for the National League. So when I looked at that, I said, yeah, I'm taking the National League minus 112 because their lineup seems better. So I'm going to take an early lead. I was going to do something fancy and take National League first 5. But the truth is, you have to take like the under in the first 5. It's hard to score runs in the All-Star game because the pitching is so good. So the better pick would have been the under. As a matter of fact, Coca, what is the over-under of the All-Star game? I know you hate when I do this. Do you have access to that as we're winding? It's 7? Well, that's a great market, isn't it? Way to go, DraftKings. You've made it so I don't want to make the pick. 7 is such a great over-under. Not touching it. Sometimes the best bet is the one you don't make. But National League minus 112, I am in. Make sure you tune in to the broadcast tonight. It's going to be exciting. It's my favorite All-Star game because it's just fun to see your own players. It's fun to see what players can do. Will Cal Raleigh back up his home run derby victory with a home run in the All-Star game? Will it matter in the second part of the season? All of the questions get answered starting this Friday. In the meantime, we get an All-Star game. And in the meantime, you get a break. And when we come back in only 3 minutes, wait till you see who our guest is. I have a hint. Hi. Welcome back to the second hour of Nothing Personal on Tuesday, July 15th. You know, Tuesdays, we have a guest in the second hour, and I'm super excited to welcome Terry Virts to the show. He's a former F-16 pilot with the Air Force, a former NASA astronaut. Yes, that's true. And he's a current candidate for the Democratic Party in Texas to be in the U.S. Senate. I wanted to bring him on right now to talk about why he's running for Senate and what difference he can make in our country, which is facing a constitutional crisis in some regards and a brand new world in many political spectrums. And Terry Virts, you want to be a part of it. Welcome, Terry.
Thanks for having me back on, David. I had to rep, I got my Nolan Ryan Rainbow Astros jersey on today.
When I look at that one, I actually think of J.R. Richard. He's the first person I associate with that jersey.
The Astrodome. You know, the Astrodome is still there. It's right next to the Texans Stadium. I just saw Metallica there a couple weeks ago.
Terry, I got to ask because I've known you a very long time, a friend of the show, a friend of mine, met you through Jeff Conine, Mr. Marlin, and I watched you get launched into space live. Yeah. I've seen you and spoken to you while in space. The coolest phone call I've ever gotten in my life was from you while you were in space on the space station. And you are living your life as a former astronaut from NASA. And then you see an opening and you decide you want to get into politics. Walk me through that decision.
So it wasn't that I was looking for a job, and it's not like I said, oh, now here's my chance to be a senator. It really came down to, man, things are bad. The country's going in a bad direction. And I could either kind of stand by. In the last election cycle, I supported some folks that I thought were good folks and tried to help them. And it just got to the point where I can't just sit around and do nothing anymore. There's the idea that to those who much has been given, much will be expected, and I've been given a lot. I'm really just an average guy, but I went to a great public school and got to live in outer space for 7 months. So I've been given a lot from this country, and it was my chance to give back.
So when you say it's your chance to give back, there's so many ways to give back, and obviously politics is a very interesting one because it's fraught. It's a roller coaster. Yeah. It's fraught with all sorts of difficulties where we have a hard time in this country finding qualified candidates to run. And what made you sit down and who did you talk to when you had this epiphany? Listen, I'm qualified to be a senator.
So there's a funny Harry Truman quote. When he got to the Senate, he looked around and he said, "What am I doing here?" And then 6 weeks later, he looked around and he said, "What are they doing here?" So, although I don't have, political training, I'm not a lawyer like you are. But I'm trainable. I was a fighter pilot, but on my space missions, I was the crew medical officer. So I was kind of like the doctor in space. So I think I can learn the job. And the most important thing, you know why they picked Neil Armstrong to be the first man on the moon? It wasn't because he was the best. He was a great pilot. He was an amazing test pilot, but there was a whole office full of great pilots. It wasn't because of all of his experience. I mean, no one had ever landed on the moon. They picked him for his judgment. And they knew that when it was time to land, if he had to abort, he would push the red button to abort, or if it was time to land, he would land. They picked him for his judgment to make the right decisions. And I think that's what we need to do when it comes to politics. Unfortunately, the universe we live in is so fragmented. And if you're in the one echo chamber, all you ever hear is the other guys are the devil. And if you're in the other echo chamber, all you ever hear is the other guys are Hitler or whatever. And that's just not true. I just read a bunch of research, and there's a whole lot of issues that more than 80% of Americans agree on. We always hear about how divided we are. The reality is there's all kinds of stuff that almost everybody agrees on. Everybody agrees if you're an illegal alien and you're committing crimes, you should be deported. Everybody agrees that we should protect Social Security for old people. Everybody agrees you should do background checks before you buy a gun. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that people agree on. But that doesn't sell. The algorithms make you money if you generate hate and get mad at the other people. That's what generates money on YouTube and Google and stuff. So we got to figure out what unites us, I think.
So when you're trying to get people to your YouTube page and you're going through your platform, so tell people where to go to learn about you as a candidate.
So the website's terryvirts.com, TerryVirts. You can see my launch video there. I did a really cool launch video. I'm running as a Democrat, but I'm really running against both parties. After you watch that video, you'll understand that I won't be getting any Christmas cards from Chuck Schumer next year. But it's a cool video. I filmed it in a space shuttle cockpit in the simulator. So the same sim where I trained to be the pilot of Endeavor. Part of it's in that. And then my friend has the best World War II Jeep collection. These Bantam Jeeps were like the original Jeep. And so a big part of it is filmed in this World War II Jeep in this cow field. Not for any reason other than if you have a chance to shoot a video in a World War II Jeep, why wouldn't you? So it's a pretty cool video.
So I don't want to spend too much time on the 80% because I love where your head's at.
Yeah.
At 80% of the issues, you can get agreement across the aisle. But
Yeah.
really, elections are won or lost in that other 20%.
Yeah.
And so when you think about when you're trying to get a voter and you just said that, hey, I'm not sure that I'm really a Democrat, I'm not sure I'm really a Republican. So how do you define what your beliefs are? And you can do it by an issue. If you want to talk about immigration, you can do it in a macro way. But tell me, if you don't want me to look at you as a Democrat or a Republican, how do you want me to look at you?
Yeah. So in Texas, look, the Democrats haven't won here for 30 years. Democrats haven't won here since you were with the Montreal Expos back in the day, since we didn't have a World Series. That's how long it's been. So unless I can attract independents, moderates, Republicans who are disaffected with Trump, unless those guys vote for me, I'm going to lose. So um, it comes down to values. And I believe in America. I believe in telling the truth. I'm going to tell people the truth. I'm going to call balls and strikes like I see them. I'm not just going to be on one team yelling about the other team. And we have an administration right now that lies incessantly. It's impossible to keep up with the amount of crap that they put out constantly every day.
So how do you
And I'm
deal
going to
with
call
that,
that
though,
out.
Terry?
What's
Because
that?
what the Republicans would say is that Democrats are no better. And that if we had a country under Harris or the country we had under Biden was actually ineffective, it was not, from a legislative standpoint, getting anything done. And Trump and his party says, look, we just got this big, beautiful bill passed. I want to talk about that. And because that was a major vote that senators were, obviously, there's only 100 of you. Two per
Right.
state. It's not like the House where it's based on the census. And so you have to get 51 votes and the VP can break the tie, which is what happened in the big, beautiful bill. Are there parts of that bill that we should all be focused on that you had issue with as a Democrat? Or more importantly, are there parts of that bill that you actually agreed to as a Democrat running for Senate?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of issues I have with the bill. First of all, it's a massive, huge spending bill that they crammed through 51 to 49. In the House, it only passed by a few votes. In Texas, they've gerrymandered us really badly to where Republicans have four extra seats than they should have. If Texas didn't have such egregious gerrymandering, that bill would not have passed. And so if you're going to do something that big, you really should do it bipartisan. Let's get the whole country on board. And that's not at all what happened. I have issues with 1.4 million Texans getting kicked off Medicaid. I've got really close family members who depend on Medicaid, and 1.5 million Texans are going to lose that. The biggest thing that should terrify every American is what's happening with ICE. We have by far the largest police force in American history, bigger than the FBI or anything. The ICE is just massive. The budget is so big that it's bigger than all but 15 of the world's largest militaries. It would be one of the largest, militaries on earth. And right here in Houston, just a couple days ago, they took this mom who's been living here for 20 years. Her kids they were taking their kids to college. Now she was undocumented. Throw her in an unmarked car, and I don't know if she's going to the El Salvador gulag or what. They hide at immigration judicial proceedings, and they unmarked just guys in plain clothes, grab people, throw them in unmarked cars. This is not America. This is what was happening in Germany in the 1930s. And when I'm a senator, I'm going to get ICE back under control because it's just un-American.
But the 80% of people who say, yeah, we do have a problem with immigration and that our borders are too open or that there are too many people here who are undocumented, And sometimes you have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. And this, whether this is my view or not, I want to discuss this because what is in my head, and this has impacted my family actually with a deportation that's happening with someone who has worked with us for decades, who is being sent back because her status is temporary. And so the TPS orders are being rescinded for a bunch of countries. And I understand why that's happening, because what they're trying to do is make sure that in the big sweep, they get those who have the wrong status, expired status, or truly are criminals. But how do I fight for the people who I know and love who are here, like the mom you're talking about? What can we do as a country to differentiate?
Yeah, what they're really doing is filling Stephen Miller quotas, one of the worst human beings in our government. And they have to take the low-hanging fruit to get these thousands of people a day that they're trying to round up. But they're taking construction workers. In Houston, we have a housing crisis. Guess what? That's going to get worse now. They're taking farm workers, and these are people who are abiding by the law. Congress should do its job. And look, you shouldn't come here illegally. And I'm going to bash my own party for a second. During the last election, Democrats pretended that illegal immigration was fine. It's not fine. I disagree with it. It needed to stop, and they didn't stop it. And Americans agreed too. They said that Joe Biden was not too old. Well, Joe Biden was too old, and the American voters could see that. So Democrats were gaslighting voters, and I think voters are smart. They know that Donald Trump is full of, you know what, horse hockey would be the David Samson term. They know that he lies, and yet they still trusted him more than they trusted Democrats. So as Democrats, we have a big problem. And I'm going to do a quick diversion here. As a fighter pilot, we would debrief my combat missions over Iraq. We'd go fly over Iraq, we'd come back and we'd debrief to figure out what went right, what went wrong. As a baseball president, the manager has a debrief every day. I'm sure, I assume you have a debrief. How'd the draft go? How'd last year's draft go? I'm sure you're always looking to get better. What did we do wrong? It's nothing personal. It's only business, right? You want to get better. Democrats didn't have that, right? We just got our, you know what, kicked. And we haven't had that honest debrief with Americans. We need to go, look, Americans, we were wrong. We're going to get better. We're going to get back to focusing on the middle class. Because if we don't, the direction we're going is really profoundly bad with what this administration is doing. And we need to do that. We need to get better.
How concerned are you that you're going to ruffle the feathers of the Democratic Party and that they will not support you? Because you can't run for Senate without winning the primary, and you got to win the Democratic primary first. How concerned are you if you're not embracing the Democratic Party? Instead, you're actually going almost against them.
Yeah, I love the Democratic Party. The Democrats here in Texas are awesome. I did 2 talks a couple days ago with county party groups. They are so happy. They love the message. They love my message of getting back to focusing on economic issues, getting the working class back. I come from a working class family. Everybody in my family was a union member. I was the first guy to go to college. And if we do that, we're going to win 2/3 to 1/3, but we haven't done that yet. And so I love Democrats. I love Texas Democrats. The problem has been kind of the Washington, a couple dozen insiders that let the party go too far down the culture war side, and Americans just don't believe in that. I'll give you this other quick statistic. 3,200 counties in America. 2,000 of those counties are rural. Bill Clinton in the 90s won 52% of the rural counties. So Middle America was with Bill Clinton. That number has been going down to where Kamala Harris won 8%, right? In Texas, along the valley, all the Hispanic Texans were voting for Trump. A lot of Black Americans are voting for Trump. So we need to, focus on those folks and get back to our roots as LBJ or JFK Democrats.
So if you are trying, obviously in Texas, when you're doing your math and you're figuring out how to win the primary, you've already made the decision that the Hispanic vote is moved. But the problem is, if they're not registered as Democrats, they don't vote in the primary. If people don't realize that they're registered as independents or Republicans for that matter, you can vote for whoever you want in the general election, but you don't get to vote in the primary. How big an issue does your campaign staff feel that is?
Yeah, actually in Texas, It's open primary, so anybody can vote for anybody. I
Oh,
could vote
thank
in
you,
a
Terry. I did not know. I was
yeah,
speaking as a New Yorker where it's a closed primary. So
yeah.
therefore you can go after in Texas. Thank you. And by the way, we're live. We don't edit. This will be in the show that I had that wrong. So that means that you can go after in your mind the Hispanic vote from either side of the aisle. And will that be your differentiating factor, do you think?
I hope so. I've got a friend of mine was a Mexican American astronaut, Jose Hernandez. They just had a movie about him last year. He's going to come down and talk to folks. A friend of mine is another Mexican American is going to help me. I've got Duolingo. I've got Spanish on Duolingo, so I'm working on on my Spanish. I speak French, so whenever you're always speaking French on the podcast, I understand those words. But I think that's going to be a big part of it. The inner city in Dallas and Houston. I'm going to talk to those folks. The Hispanic community in San Antonio. Texas is a big state, by the way. If we were a country, we'd have the eighth largest economy on earth. So it's a big task.
So how many days until the primary?
232. I have a launch countdown clock on my laptop.
Okay, so
March 3rd.
therefore, when
Yeah.
you are allocating your time, because we talk about this on Nothing Personal, time is short. You can't buy more of it, no matter how much money you raise. When you think about allocating your time, what have you been told, and what do you think is the best use of your time over the next 200 plus days? Is it door to door? Is it events? Is it money raising, phone calls? What do you think is the most important to win that primary?
Yeah, my staff has let me know that I'm the horse, I'm not the jockey, so they're going to run me. There's two things. First of all, you win elections with votes, so I need to focus my time on two things: getting votes and getting money. I can't have a staff unless I have money. So fundraising is really important. And for a first-time candidate, plus I was in the Air Force for over 30 years, so I'm not, a wealthy team president. So raising money is a very important thing. So my time is getting votes and raising money, and then the staff is talking to the media, setting up my travel. I'm going to be traveling all around the state of Texas for the next, what is it, 8 months. So
Do you have a tour bus?
F-150 is going to be my tour bus.
Wait,
Initially, but eventually we'll
what?
get to the John McCain Straight Talk Express or something like that.
People don't remember the story because I don't tell it very often. You had to, when you were active in the Air Force, you had to have some test hours, like you had to fly.
Yeah,
And so you would fly. I hope this can be public. If not,
it
it's about to
can.
be. You would fly from Houston to Miami to have lunch with me and Conine and then fly back.
Well, it was space flight readiness training. So as an astronaut, you had to fly 15 hours a month, and I was a pilot, and some of the astronauts are backseaters. So we would just pick a place. We would fly to, Oklahoma or California or Florida, do navigation training, do all the flying training. But if you got to go somewhere, you may as well go. What was the pizza place Conine used to take us to?
Are
Um,
you scared? He took us. You came in more than once.
it was like
So
Uncle
we
Guido's or
went to
something. Yeah,
Garcia's. We got
yeah,
pizza together. We
yeah.
went to some games. What is the fear when you go to bed at night and you're thinking about running for office and the ghosts that, the digging, the opposition research, all the things that are going to happen during the course of this. And it could end up that you don't win the primary. And then in theory, that's the end of that story for the moment. The fear when you go to bed versus the fear when the countdown is on and you're strapped in, about to be launched into space, and the countdown is on, it's set, it's down from 10. Is that the most fear you've ever felt, or is this the most fear you've ever felt?
Um, well, this is certainly more mentally stressful for your family and everything. The first thing I did in this whole, once I decided I was going to run, like the first step was opposition research on myself. So we hired a firm, dig up everything you can, and hours of sitting down and, everything about your life. My staff knows more about me probably than anybody else. And at the end of it, they were like, that's all. And anyway, but there's dirt. Everybody has dirt. Uh, Even if you don't have anything, they're still going to make up stuff and lie about you. And my mom reads the comments on Twitter. I'm like, Mom, stop reading, stop reading comments on Facebook.
Terry, is the space station in a studio in California?
You gotta, we gotta have another. Everybody talks about Area 51, It's Area 52 you really want to know about.
So you
I'm
never
joking. I'm
actually.
joking. That's irony.
Don't
That's
clip and
humor.
aggregate that, Coca. He's joking. He actually was on the space station because I don't know how else he'd get the photos that he sent to me that were part of a great, and there's a great movie that you're a part of that
Yeah,
I reviewed on this show. Do you want to mention that movie?
I
That's a
remember that.
great way
It's an
for people to
IMAX
learn.
movie. Yep, called A Beautiful Planet. It's an awesome movie. If you have a chance, take your kids to go to the IMAX theater, or I think you can get a DVD or watch it on probably Disney because they own whatever. So yeah, A Beautiful Planet. One, I think it's the best IMAX movie. The lady that made it, Toni Myers, unfortunately, it was her last movie because she got cancer and passed away. But she made all the space IMAX movies for the last 30 years, and she saved her best for last.
I want to talk about baseball and politics because they're related and they always have been, whether it's through presidential first pitches, whether it's through labor wars that have happened, that have found their way into the House and the Senate and into the White House, even. So, you're a baseball fan, you're a big baseball fan. What inning are you currently in right now in your campaign?
This is the middle of the first. We've already had the first pitch. And we just launched a couple weeks ago, so this is new. But it's there's a pitch timer now, so the game's moving pretty fast. The ninth inning is coming. Um, the primary is probably, I don't know, inning five, inning six. So things are the pace of this game is picking up.
Do you have a plan if you don't win the primary, which I hope you do? Is there a way? Because it just happened in New York recently when Cuomo didn't win the primary, but now he's going to run anyway for mayor. Is it something where you and your staff, because in baseball, we would never plan to lose. We would never have a plan B.
Right.
Shockingly, I just didn't want that. Is that the mentality you have going into this primary?
Yeah, there's plan A. There's no plan B. Actually, the other thing that's weird about Texas, Texas is very different from New York. We have a sore loser law where if you lose the primary, you can't run as an independent. So I either win the primary or I don't.
So they don't let you run. Is that for one cycle or is that forever?
I think it's just not. I think it's just for the
That particular
cycle.
cycle,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like if in 2 years I could run as an independent, but you kind of need to be a billionaire to run as an independent, and unfortunately, there's an old saying, you go to war with the army you have, and the army we have in America is a two-party system. So that's kind of how you win elections. A guy named Dan Osborne almost won in Nebraska because he convinced the Democrats not to run a candidate. So it was him as an independent and the Republican. But if there's three parties in a big statewide race, that's tough to win as the third party guy.
When you look at social media and the influence it now has, and you look back at campaigns that properly use social media, and to get celebrity endorsements, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Have you thought about which players, like Kevin Durant is a new member of the Houston Rockets? Is that
Yeah.
someone that you'd want to sit down with and see if you could get him to support your candidacy?
Absolutely. I love, I'm going to do non-traditional things. I was on Joe Rogan a few years ago, but I'll go on any kind of podcast, talk with anybody. I won't go on any podcast. I'm not going to go on the
Thanks so
Alex Jones
much.
and some of that craziness, but yeah, I would talk to anybody. I'd love to have, if you know Kevin, come join Team Virts. We need you on the team.
Because that's the key, is to get it out there with what
Yeah.
your views are. Because really what we do on Nothing Personal is we educate people on both sides of an issue and let people decide where they stand on Second Amendment issues, or where they stand on what's going on in Israel, etc.
I'm going to
And
call for
so
this, so you want to talk
before we
Samson
end
graphic
here,
also
can you
during this
just
segment.
in 1 minute, we have 1 minute left, give me the elevator speech of why you should be the next United States Senator from the great state of Texas?
So I'm not a politician. I'm a fighter pilot. I'm a NASA astronaut. So for me, mission is sacred. Like everything's all about the mission. And I approach problems as a problem solver. I want to govern. I want to get things done. I don't want to be on team D bashing team R. It's not just red versus blue. It's red, white, and blue. So that's how I'm going to approach this thing. It's about judgment, and I think I have good judgment, having served the country for over 30 years, being a combat veteran, and I have a perspective of looking down on the earth that only one other senator does, Mark Kelly. And those things make me a lot better suited than the current, Cornyn's been in there for 40 years, the guy I'm running against. Ken Paxton, one of the most corrupt human beings on the planet. So I think that let's serve America, let's govern is the right answer.
Please go to terryvirts.com and learn all you can about your candidates for U.S. Senate wherever you are. And for our fans in Texas, terryvirts.com. Terry, I appreciate your time. We will do this again down the road.
Let's do it, David. Thanks so much for having me on.
I must say that the ability to speak to Terry Virts, thank you for coming on, Terry. Very, very cool. And it's very important that we have people who want to get into politics, who want to learn about the issues, and who actually have a chance to effectuate change. It has never been more important. And we say that every year. This is not unique to Trump. This is not unique to Biden. This is not unique to anything going back to Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr. You got to get involved. And to get involved, you got to vote. And to get involved, you need people who are willing to actually run. Terry Virts has a chance in the Democratic primary. As he just said, I think Cokie told us, he feels like he's in the first inning. One of the issues he's going to have to deal with in a very significant way, especially from Texas, but it doesn't matter where you are as a senator or in the House, you're going to have to deal with the immigration issue. The immigration issue is one that is so significant at the moment. It's so polar. Terry said something that I was thinking about while he was talking to me, is that where I stand on that is I am in the 80%. There is no question. I want people who are here illegally and committing crimes. I don't want them in the country. However, it's a far more nuanced issue. It is an issue that impacts industries, not just the ones that you read about, farming, landscaping, households. It's an issue that impacts sports. We've got baseball players who we sign from the Dominican, from Venezuela, and they do not have visas to come into the country. We work hard in order to get visas for certain players who we want to bring to spring training, who we want to bring into our minor league system in the United States. We keep a team in the Dominican, and you read all about the facilities and how much money teams are spending, yada, yada, yada. The fact is, that's all eyewash. What we want out of the Dominican is to be able to bring players who we think are going to make it and bring them to the States. To do it, we have to get them visas. There are a limited number of visas that we get as a team. We have to allocate them in the best way possible. And those who do not get visas cannot come. We don't sneak players in. There are players, however, who once they come in and we release them, there is no follow-up by teams. We in no way make sure they go back to the countries from where they came. We lose track, whether we've taught them English, whether we've taught them trade skills, whatever the case is. Any team that tells you that they follow up on their released foreign-born players is lying to you. Straight up. We are in a situation now where baseball has to have a significant lobbying presence in Washington in order to protect and make sure that ICE does not in any way get involved in interrupting our ability to have the players in the states we want to have. And we're powerful. Not everybody gets the benefit of Major League Baseball's power. Not everyone gets the benefit of having a sponsor or having a company for whom they work that will take care of Washington because they take care of Washington and then have Washington take care of them. There are tens of thousands of people who are being kicked out of the country, being deported back to unsafe living situations where they had been living here for, in some cases, decades, paying taxes, not breaking any laws whatsoever. And if they happen to be from a country that the current administration chooses is a country that we want to deport people back to. Just take Nicaragua, take Cuba, take Honduras. You could take myriad countries because they're adding countries to the list every day. This can't be what I wanted. It can't be that I had someone working for me for 20 years who was helping with childcare, who was an absolute professional, also had a full-time job, benefited, a perfect record, no arrests. Don't be ridiculous. And now that person is being forced by the beginning of September to go back to her country. There's something called TPS. It basically means that you're allowed here temporarily. When you have temporary status, you're supposed to turn it into permanent status if you can, if you have the money, if you have the sponsor. If you don't turn it into permanent status, then you are subject to the whims of an administration who decides at the drop of a dime to change your status and to make it so you are going to be deported. Donald Trump tried this in his first administration and the courts overturned it. There are lawsuits going on right now where the judicial system will have an opportunity to overturn the edict of the president calling for the deportation, the mass deportation of those here on temporary visas. The whole purpose of our country, I could give you a top 10 purposes. One of the most important things that we do is we provide safety, sanctuary. We are the land of the free, the home of the brave. It sounds like I want to salute and shed a tear, but I'm not being funny. That is what the Statue of Liberty, that is our Constitution. That is the country that we used to be. I am not in favor of open borders, though you can make your own decision. I am not in favor of having people here illegally who then commit crimes. I am very much in favor of taking those people and removing them. How can you be in favor of deporting innocent people who are being caught up in a political war and get sent back to a country where there is a real war, where there are real safety issues? How can we do that specifically to people? It reminds me a little of when Elon Musk was working for the government doing things that we'd all agree are important. Efficiency matters. Trimming the deficit matters, though the big, beautiful bill adds trillions of dollars to our debt. But I digress. The reality is this should matter to all of us, and it is being discussed in hallways. It's being discussed in bunkers. There is not nearly enough attention on what ICE is doing. And you heard TerryVirts.com talk about it. The size of ICE and the way they are taking a blowtorch to a problem. One of the things I learned when my sister was dying of cancer was that the treatment she was getting could kill her because they haven't figured out a way yet to just treat the bad cells. They have to treat all the cells to get rid of the bad cells. And then you get good cells that get killed. And then all of a sudden you don't have enough cells. And all of a sudden you're dying from the treatment. The concept is that what you're trying to do is get rid of the bad cells only. But if the trade is to get rid of the bad cells, you get rid of the good cells, are you actually doing anything for the patient? I don't need to strain the metaphor enough for you to understand that is the patient our country? Are the cells, good people working here for decades? Are the bad cells those that take advantage of our lack of oversight and then end up doing things that ought to cost them their freedom and their spot in America? Baseball has an opportunity here to get involved because they have a voice. They are getting involved in terms of their players and their situation because that's what we do. We all act in our own interests. I'm interested in this because someone who I love, someone who's been with me for decades, is going to be deported out of this country. Why does it take that for us to get involved? Terry Virts may have had it right, folks. Terry Virts may have had it right that we need somebody in power. We need a politician who's not a Democrat, who's not a Republican, who's not the old guard. We need someone who's willing to understand the issues and actually look at them from a different point of view and not be scared of the establishment. Ironically, the establishment you may look at as the far-right MAGA, or you may look at the Democrat establishment and say, God, they're ancient and idiotic. But when you close your eyes and ignore whether you see red or you see blue, what I see when I close my eyes is you, and I see me, and I see us in this country trying to just get through it. And I'd like the bar to be set a little higher. I understand the power of money. I've understood that since I was young. I've understood that there are people that will always have more money than you or I. There are people who will always have less money than you and I. I've always understood when I saw the name of something, the Delta Center. I guess Delta Airlines paid for that. When you see names on buildings, there are people who get upset when there are named schools or named buildings or named chairs at your university or high school, or named pavilions when you go to a concert or a game. I've never been upset about any of that because that's business. Something happened in tennis recently that got my attention, and people are angry. There's a hedge fund manager named Bill Ackman, and Bill Ackman has gotten crushed because he got a wild card entry into a doubles professional tennis tournament. He wasn't at Wimbledon, but he got to play in a tournament. It was related to the baseball 4869. It was related to the Tennis Hall of Fame. And there are tennis players who have been very open about their anger. There have been fans very open about their anger that a man could buy himself onto a tennis court. I know those can't be the same people who are paying attention to F1 and the fact that there are people who are sponsoring F1 cars, and that sometimes, in some cases, there are drivers of F1 cars who are related to the owners of the F1 teams. I'm in. Sometimes there are team presidents who are the son or stepson of an owner. I'm in. Sometimes when you give money, you give it anonymously. That's the highest form of tzedakah. Sometimes you give it in the name of yourself and your family. You give it in honor of somebody. You want something to be remembered or someone to be remembered, and you give money in order to help something or someone. Do you know that Bill Ackman announced a $10 million endowment for the International Tennis Hall of Fame? And you cynical people will say, wow, for $10 million, he got himself a wild card entry. You bet your sweet bippy that's what happened. Bill Ackman spent so much time on X the other day trying to tell us, hey, man, those aren't related. My $10 million gift had nothing to do with the wild card entry. Horse hockey. Just wear it and admit it. That's all we ask as people. I wanted to play tennis in a professional tennis match, so I bought a wild card entry. But you listen to me. Do you know what an endowment does when you do a $10 million endowment? What that means is that every year, forever, $500,000 will go to benefit people, will go to help the Tennis Hall of Fame. An endowment means that you take 5% of the total amount, and that 5% is what's used every year for projects or people or scholarships, and the rest of the money gets invested, and in general, you try to earn more than 5% on the money and grow the endowment, but if you only make 5% on your money, then it always stays at 10 million in that account, and 5% gets donated every year into action. Endowments, the concept of endowment, it's something my family, my wife and children did at Cardozo Law School. We did an endowment for people to go into public interest law. giving them a summer stipend when they couldn't afford to not work for a firm, and we will give them money so they can work for the public defender's office in Miami. Endowed it, and it's been going on for over a decade and will go on long after I'm dead, long after my children are dead. There will be kids who have not been born who will get to be public defenders. There are endowments at the prosecutor's office. There's endowments everywhere because you're giving people an opportunity to do something that they otherwise would not be able to do. Why aren't we applauding charitable endeavors by Bill Ackman? Why aren't we saying thank you for giving $10 million to the Tennis Hall of Fame and making it so that you have an opportunity to actually do something with the money that you've earned? Whether you inherited it, whether you worked for it, you've earned it. It's your money. Birth lottery, work lottery, doesn't matter. The job is for us to do the right thing. And all people are focused on is that he played in a tournament and what a disgrace it is. What about the reality of the youth programs and the other initiatives that will grow tennis and make it more available so there can be another Coco Gauff, so there can be people who just have an opportunity? And of course, what people will say is, why not just give the 10 million and not take anything in return? Why not just give the $10 million and not ask for a wild card entry? All right, I agree. That's the highest form. I already told you that's the highest form of tzedakah, of charity, is to do it anonymously and ask for nothing in return. Guess what? That's not common. Of course, we all want to strive to be the best we can, the most moral, to have no skeletons. We just interviewed a candidate for U.S. Senate who acknowledged that he's got skeletons and ghosts in the closet that he's not afraid of. You know why? Because we all do. You want to hide in a corner? Do it. You want to play tennis and in return you'll give $10 million? What kind of organization would turn that down? You've got to do that trade. But Bill Ackman just denied it. Would have been a way better story if he said, you're damn right I gave $10 million to play a wild card. You want to give $10 million and help youth play tennis and learn about tennis and have life lessons for the rest of time? Bring it on. And you think the Tennis Hall of Fame is going to turn that down? Just because Andy Roddick said it, the match was a disaster. He stinks. It's beneath the Hall of Fame. You know what's beneath the Hall of Fame? Is making it so that youth programs dry up because they lose financing and funding, and there's people who don't get after-school activities or daycare or other ways that they can stay off the streets and then stay out of prison. That, I guess we're going to go for that. I had a full day to think about how I would respond to the Club World Cup issue. We've been doing something with DraftKings since the start of the Club World Cup, where we've been doing videos. Jack Lerner, someone who's on our team at Nothing Personal, you've seen his social videos and how TikTok, nothingpersonal.npds on Instagram and TikTok, working together with Coca to increase the leverage and the visibility of Nothing Personal. We are a three-legged stool now. And Jack put together a number of videos for the Club World Cup, and I got a chance to learn more about the Club World Cup. And I was watching, which I normally wouldn't have before all this, Chelsea and PSG, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, it's a blowout. I could turn it off. I could go outside. But I love watching celebrations, and I'm watching the celebration, and here comes Donald Trump. Awesome. Like the president, whether your view of the president is positive or negative, to have the president at a game, you had me at hello. I think it's fantastic. Then the president goes on stage and wanted to be part of giving away the trophy, giving away the awards that happen after Chelsea won. And Donald Trump is being criticized mercilessly for staying on stage and for being in all of the pictures. And it took me a day, but I got there. And here's where I am. Explain to me the outrage or the anger. Explain to me that when you hate someone so much, that what it means is you choose to hate everything that person does, no matter what. And that you tend to go out there and will publicize or go on Twitter or X or just in your own private home or at work. And you will say, look, I told you I hated him. Look what he did now. How is that helpful in any of the discourse that we've been talking about during this show? How is it that criticizing Donald Trump for awkwardly staying on stage and being a part of a picture that maybe you should be in, maybe you shouldn't be in, have we not all been in the situation where you're in high school in the cafeteria? Wait, should I leave the table? Should I not leave the table? Am I welcome at the table? Is this awkward that I'm still at the table? Am I on the right side of the cafeteria, the wrong side? Am I with Judd Nelson or am I with Molly Ringwald? God, I'd love to be not with Anthony Michael Hall, but maybe I am Anthony Michael Hall. We've all been there. We've criticized Donald Trump plenty on this show. We've criticized people on both sides of the aisle because we're trying to give you the real information that politicians, that people in sports don't want to give you, and they don't give you. I, on the other hand, have a different view, which is why don't we save the rancor for when it matters? Otherwise, we have no frame of reference. We have no frame of reference if we are getting on Donald Trump for staying on stage longer than he should. Give me a break. Tomorrow's going to be Wednesday. I want to reiterate what tomorrow is. We have a So You Want to Talk to Samson hour of the show. That is when you ask me your questions. So You Want to Talk to Samson is from a character that is from Half-Baked. The character's name is Samson. And it used to be that you'd email me at davidsamsonpodcast.com or DM me at David P. Samson on X. You can still do all that. But the best way to get on the show is to call the number on your screen. And if you're listening to this, the number is 631-DPS. That's my name, NPDS. Nothing personal with David Samson. David Philip Samson, DPS. That number is 631-377-4869. As a fan of the show, you know the importance of all 10 of those numbers. 631-377-4869. Don't think just because we have hundreds of voicemails to choose from that we won't choose you. The one way to guarantee that we won't choose you, if your message is 4 minutes long, please, 42 seconds would be the most I would say, but get in there, ask a question that's funny, make an observation, make a comment, do something, and you may make the show. As we close today's show, I want to bring it back to the All-Star game. And as I was thinking more about my pick, which is still the National League, thinking about the exhibition that we are going to watch starting tonight at 8 o'clock, thinking about the state that baseball is in as it's heading into a collective bargaining negotiation next year with a deal that runs out in December of 26. I wanted to end with a message to Tony Clark and to Rob Manfred, the head of the Players Union and the Commissioner of Baseball. On nights like this, when you love being on the field, when you love looking over the kingdoms that you've created and the joy that you bring to millions of people, whether you are a baseball fan or not, in the middle of summer, the programming that you provide, the hours and hours of entertainment, ask yourself, what is worth it? Salary cap, salary floor, any sort of lifestyle issues, pension issues, all of the myriad things, and there are hundreds of them, that in a vacuum you would say, we can't stop the game for this. We can't stop the game for that. But when you look at them collectively, you say, what path do we have to peace? When you feel there's no path to peace, whether you are in your own company, whether you're in baseball, whether you're in a foreign country, whether you're in the Middle East, when you think there is no path to peace, you are guaranteed no peace. What I would think is, while we're watching and at the All-Star game, let's imagine our path to peace. Let's imagine our path to a deal so we can focus on the game, which is what we all want to focus on, and not talk about politics or caps or strikes or lockouts. Let's make it so we talk about the brilliance of the game. Tonight, watch it. It's just business. We'll be back tomorrow. This is nothing personal.